A crowd screams as the great temple of Gaza begins to groan and crack. Stone pillars tremble. Dust erupts from the ceiling. And in the center of it all stands a blind prisoner, hands pressed against two massive columns, whispering a final prayer. Moments later, everything falls. For centuries, people have asked the same question. How did one man bring down an entire temple? To answer that, we must go back to the beginning, before the betrayal, before the battles, before the legends, to the child who was born under a prophecy and destined to fight an empire. This is the story of Samson. Samson's story begins with a promise. A woman from the town of Zorah is visited by a messenger who tells her she will soon bear a son, one who must follow a strict vow for his entire life. No wine, no contact with the dead, and most famously, no cutting his hair. Her son, she is told, will begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines, the powerful nation dominating the region. From the moment he draws his first breath, Samson is set apart, born into a world of oppression, born into expectations he never asked for. And from childhood, one thing becomes clear. Samson possesses extraordinary strength. But strength without direction can be as dangerous as weakness without hope. At the time of Samson's birth, Israel is fractured. There is no king, no central leader. Each tribe struggles alone. Meanwhile, the Philistines rise above the coastlands with iron weapons, a centralized government, and a formidable army. They control the trade routes and hold the Israelites in a 40-year grip of submission. It is into this world of simmering tension that Samson comes of age, a man of impossible power in a land of impossible odds. His first major act is not one of war, but of love. He sees a Philistine woman in the town of Timnah and demands his parents arrange a marriage. To them, it's a betrayal of their people. To Samson, it is something more, a divine opportunity. He sees a chance to provoke the conflict that his destiny demands. This union will not be a bridge between two peoples, but the spark that ignites a war. The wedding feast begins, and with it, Samson's first move. He poses a riddle to his 30 Philistine companions, a wager with high stakes, 30 sets of fine linen and festival garments. The riddle speaks of a lion he had secretly killed, and the honeycomb he later found in its carcass. Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. For days, the Philistines are stumped, their frustration turning to fury. Unable to solve it, they resort to threats, coercing Samson's new wife to pry the answer from him. She weeps and pleads until he finally relents. The answer is revealed, and Samson's response is swift and brutal. He travels to a nearby Philistine city, strikes down 30 men, and uses their garments to pay his debt. The wedding is over before it truly began. His wife is given to another man, and Samson's private dispute becomes a public vendetta. He has lit the fuse. The conflict escalates. Samson retaliates for the loss of his wife by unleashing fiery destruction on Philistine fields. In turn, the Philistines burn his former wife and her father to death. Enraged, Samson slaughters many of them before retreating to a cave. The Philistine army marches into Judah, demanding the Israelites hand him over. Fearing annihilation, 3,000 of his own countrymen come to bind him. But this is Samson's plan. He agrees to be tied up and handed over, a willing prisoner. As he is brought into the Philistine camp, their shouts of victory turn to screams of terror. The Spirit of God rushes upon him. The ropes melt from his arms like flax touched by fire. Grabbing the fresh jawbone of a donkey, he becomes a one-man army, cutting down 1,000 Philistine soldiers. He has proven that no army can hold him, and no ropes can bind him. Samson's legend grows, and he becomes a thorn in the side of the Philistines for 20 years. His next major exploit takes him deep into enemy territory, to the fortified city of Gaza. He spends the night with a prostitute, and the Gazites see their chance. They surround the city gate, planning to ambush him at dawn. But Samson rises at midnight. Instead of fighting his way out, he does the unthinkable. He walks to the city gate, tears the massive wooden doors, the 2 posts, and the bar from the city wall, and carries them on his shoulders. He walks for miles, finally depositing them on the top of a hill facing Hebron. The message is clear. Your walls cannot contain me. Your gates cannot stop me. He is not just a warrior. He is a force of nature, mocking the very foundations of Philistine power. But the Philistines realize that what they cannot defeat with iron, they might conquer with intimacy. They find their perfect weapon in a woman from the Sorek Valley, Delilah. The lords of the Philistines approach her with a staggering offer, 1,100 shekels of silver, each if she can uncover the secret of Samson's great strength. Delilah begins her work, weaving a web of affection and inquiry. "Tell me," she asks, "where does your great strength lie?" 3 times Samson deceives her. "Tie me with 7 fresh bowstrings," he says. "Bind me with new ropes. Weave the locks of my hair into the loom." Each time she tries, and each time he breaks free with ease. But Delilah is relentless. She presses him daily, her words wearing away at his soul until he can no longer bear it. Finally, he surrenders his sacred secret. His strength is not his own, but a divine gift symbolized by his uncut hair. If it is shaved, he will become as weak as any other man. The trap is set. While Samson sleeps in her lap, a man is called to shave the 7 braids of his hair. As the last lock falls, his strength departs. Delilah's cry rings out, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He awakens, expecting to break free as before, but he does not know that the Lord has left him. This time, there is no surge of power. The ropes hold. The Philistines seize him, gouge out his eyes, and take him down to Gaza. There, in the very city whose gates he once carried away, he is bound with bronze shackles and forced to grind grain in the prison. The great deliverer of Israel is now a blind, powerless slave. His enemies have not only captured his body, they have stolen his identity. He is a public spectacle, a monument to Philistine victory. But in the darkness of that prison, something begins to change. His hair begins to grow again. The Philistines decide to hold a great festival to celebrate their triumph. Thousands gather in the temple of Dagon, their chief god, to offer sacrifices and rejoice. "Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands," they chant. At the height of the celebration, they call for Samson to be brought out to entertain them. The blind giant is led into the temple and placed between the 2 central pillars that support the entire structure. The crowd mocks and jeers the man who once terrorized their nation. But in his humiliation, Samson is no longer the arrogant, impulsive man he once was. He is broken. And in that brokenness, he utters his final prayer, not for his own glory, but for one last act of divine justice. "Sovereign Lord," he whispers, "remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more." Placing one hand on each pillar, Samson pushes with all his might. The foundations of the temple groan, the pillars shift, and the massive stone roof begins to collapse. In a final, cataclysmic act of self-sacrifice, he brings the entire structure down, killing more people in his death than he ever did in his life, including the 5 lords of the Philistines. His war is over. Samson's story is a paradox. He was a hero who often acted like a villain, a judge who broke every rule, and a deliverer who spent much of his life fighting personal battles. He was a man of immense physical strength, but profound moral weakness. Yet, his life served a purpose he could only see at the very end. His impulsive actions, his personal vendettas, and even his tragic fall all contributed to weakening the Philistine hold on Israel, paving the way for future leaders like Samuel and David. The meaning of Samson is not found in his flawless heroism, but in the idea that even a deeply flawed individual can be an instrument of a divine plan. His strength was not in his muscles or his hair, but in his calling. His story is a stark reminder that our greatest vulnerabilities often lie right next to our greatest strengths, and that true power is not about what we can do on our own, but what we are willing to surrender to a purpose greater than ourselves. In the end, the blind prisoner saw more clearly than the powerful warrior ever had.